This is one of the world's most infamous and feared prisons.
Open the door.
The Black Dolphin Prison in Russia. This high-security penitentiary is in a remote region and has earned a reputation for being Russia's toughest prison. Its prisoners are some of Russia's most dangerous and violent criminals, and many are serving life sentences. In this video, we will take a deep dive into the history and operations of the Black Dolphin Prison, exploring the harsh conditions, strict regimes, and brutal methods used to control its inmates. Get ready for an eye-opening journey into the depths of one of the world's toughest prisons. History of Black Dolphin Prison.
I can kill a man, but a woman, a child, I couldn't harm.
The Black Dolphin Prison was opened in 2000 and replaced the old Soviet-era prison known for its poor conditions and overcrowding. The prison was built to house the most dangerous criminals in Russia, including those who have committed violent crimes. The prison is situated in the southern part of the country, close to the border with Kazakhstan. The location of the Black Dolphin Prison was chosen for several reasons. Firstly, the Orenburg Oblast region is relatively isolated, with few major cities or towns nearby. It makes it easier for the authorities to maintain tight control over the prison and prevent escapes or other security breaches. The region has a harsh climate, with hot summers and bitterly cold winters. The extreme weather conditions make it more difficult for prisoners to escape or cause trouble outside of the prison if they do escape. This also provides a further layer of security for the facility. Finally, the Black Dolphin Prison is situated near Kazakhstan's border, a central transit point for organized crime syndicates and drug traffickers. The Russian government can monitor and disrupt criminal activity by locating the prison in this area more effectively. In 1997, Russia abolished the death penalty and replaced it with a sentence of life imprisonment. Today, there are over 3,500 individuals serving life sentences in Russian prisons. Despite this change in law, most Russians still support reinstating capital punishment. Surprisingly, even many of those serving life sentences share this view. This is mainly due to the harsh conditions that lifers endure in Russian prisons, often referred to as death by firing squad in installments, even by law enforcement officials. The largest prison colony of this type in Russia is the Black Dolphin, which houses 700 inmates and staffed by 900 correctional personnel. Conditions at Black Dolphin Prison.
If you constantly think about how you are here, what is waiting for you, that you won't ever get free.
The isolation level in all prison operations is at the highest level possible. Prisoners are kept under 24-hour video surveillance. The cells have 3 sets of steel doors. Essentially, the inmates live in a cell within a cell, with 2 inmates sharing one 50-square-foot cell. Due to the nature of the prisoners, guards make rounds every 15 minutes. The inmates have no dining halls, and their food is delivered directly to their cells. Whenever the prisoners are allowed to leave their cells, they are accompanied by a dog and its handler. 3 staff members constantly monitor them and are never left alone. When moving, prisoners must assume the stress position unique to the Black Dolphin Prison. Inmates must remain bent at the waist, head down, and cuffed. When moving between buildings, they are blindfolded. This position allows maximum control over inmates and prevents them from becoming familiar with the prison layout, reducing the likelihood of escape. There is no prison yard at the Black Dolphin. For 90 minutes daily, inmates are allowed out for their daily exercise in a barren concrete exercise yard. Meanwhile, guards will search their cells for anything out of the ordinary. Once the guards have completed the search, they lead inmates back into their cells. The jail's tight security regime means that no one has ever escaped from the Black Dolphin in more than half a century. Black Dolphin is the final destination for these inmates, and the only way to leave this prison is by dying.
There is a way to leave this place, but only one way.
Treatment of inmates. The treatment of inmates at the Black Dolphin Prison has been controversial and criticized. Violence is pervasive in this prison, where inmates are subjected to daily torture through electrical shocks and beatings. According to official reports from the prison service, there were 2,700 deaths in custody last year. While it is assumed that many of these deaths were due to natural causes, It is no surprise that these violent guards also contribute to the statistics. The guards are so ruthless that one inmate, Roman Sarachev, tragically passed away within 3 hours of arriving. Sarachev was involved in running some illegal internet casinos in Bryansk and was found guilty. He appealed his sentence, hoping that his severe liver condition would spare him from jail time, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. Sarachev was transferred to a penal colony at 7:40 p.m. and passed on the operating table at 10:40 p.m. that same night. The following day, Sarachev's mother called the prison service to get the results of his blood tests, but instead was told that her son had passed away. She was understandably devastated and cried out in grief. When Sarachev's sister called, officers told her that there had been an incident regarding her brother's death. One of the guards, Sergei Shevtsov, was arrested after Sarachev's death and is currently in custody while the investigation continues. Activists who monitor cases of prison violence believe that it's unlikely that this guard was acting alone. The workers at the mortuary shared a horrifying account of how guards handled Sarachev's body. They said they tossed it around like a toy. His family couldn't even turn him over to see the other side of his body. They noticed peculiar circular bruises on his legs and shared photos of them online, hoping that it would raise public awareness and encourage a more thorough investigation. Sadly, this type of treatment is not uncommon in Russian prisons, with Penal Colony Number 6 being one of many prisons where prisoners may suffer in silence and hide their dark secrets. In July 2018, Smetana, whose real name is Ivan Marshalko and is nicknamed Sour Cream, committed a terrible crime by taking an inmate's life with a bedsheet, for which he is now serving a 12-year sentence. Another guard named Andrei Yakubov committed a similar act of violence in 2014, repeatedly hitting a prisoner in the head with a stack of books, resulting in the victim's death from a brain hemorrhage. Yakubov is serving a 10-year sentence. In 2012, National Geographic released a documentary about Russia's toughest prisons featuring Black Dolphin Prison. The documentary obtained unprecedented access to these prisons only through cooperation with the Russian government, and naturally, what they saw was probably restricted. None of the inmates interviewed in this show complained about unfair treatment or abuse, but the U.S. State Department's 2012 Human Rights Report on Russia says otherwise. There are numerous credible reports of torture and violence by law enforcement personnel to coerce confessions from suspects. The report also reveals inmates taking their own lives and self-mutilating in response to torture and abuse. There have also been videos posted online that seem to depict instances of abuse. The State Department report highlights inadequate health care as a significant problem in Russian prisons, with prisoners with HIV and AIDS regularly denied treatment. Inmates are infected with tuberculosis, hepatitis, and HIV, and are allegedly denied proper treatment. The situation in Russian prisons has been compared to World War II-era concentration camps by human rights activists, who note that it is almost impossible for inmates to report abuses to the outside world. Russian prisons operate based on a caste system, with some inmates enjoying the special treatment, including champagne, sushi, and whiskey. On the other hand, the lowest rung of prisoners, such as informers, gay inmates, rapists, prison rape victims, and child molesters, are offered little protection from other inmates in the prisons. This is reportedly due to poor funding, which leads correctional officers to take bribes from wealthy inmates. Known criminals.
I'm in for the murder of 2 people. I've been here for only 2 months.
It's no surprise that with such violent guards, there are also equally dangerous inmates. Here are some of the well-known criminals who are currently serving their time at Black Dolphin Prison. Sedamirov. Sedamirov is a former politician who served as the mayor of Makhachkala for 15 years. He was arrested in 2013, along with 10 other individuals, for allegedly being involved in the murder of a state investigator. He was also investigated for links to the criminal group Kolkhozniki, which is believed to be involved in drug trafficking and other crimes. Amirov denied any involvement in the murder and claimed that he was the victim of political games. He was held in custody at Lefortovo pre-trial prison, and his advocates argued that his health problems made him unfit for imprisonment, requesting home arrest instead. However, the court denied the request and extended his custody period. In 2014, he was found guilty of planning a terrorist act and was sentenced to 10 years in a penal colony. He was later found guilty of other crimes in 2015 and was sentenced to life imprisonment at this prison. Vadim Ershov. Vadim Nikolaevich Ershov, also known as the Krasnoyarsk Beast, is a Russian serial killer who committed more than 70 crimes between 1992 and 1995 in Krasnoyarsk and nearby areas, including 19 murders and 8 attempted murders. His reign of terror earned him a reputation as one of the most terrifying serial criminals. He was finally caught in 1995 after attacking a 16-year-old girl and being overpowered by locals and police. Farit Gabidulin. Farit Gabdulkayevich Gabidulin and his twin brother Timur were convicted of committing multiple violent crimes against young girls and women in Chelyabinsk Oblast, Russia. The brothers were arrested in 2000 after confessing to the sexual assault and murder of a 23-year-old woman, but they later admitted to committing 30 similar crimes in the area. They claimed their victims were chosen randomly, often from marginalized communities such as homeless people, and they would lure them to Mitrofanovsky Cemetery, where they would commit the crimes. Farit and Timur's victims also included pensioners they would offer to help carry heavy items or walk them home, gaining their trust before attacking them in their apartments. Farit confessed to torturing and taking the life of a 12-year-old girl in a city park, using various weapons to inflict harm before setting her body on fire. During an investigation, the brothers pointed to a potential burial site near an auto-mechanical plant, where authorities found over 100 human skulls and hundreds of bone fragments. Investigators suspect the brothers may have been responsible for additional murders, given the number of remains found at the site. Vadim Krotov. During his trial, it was revealed that Vadim Krotov not only committed murders, but he was also a prolific child molester and producer of child pornography. He lured underage girls to his home, where he would ply them with alcohol and force them to pose for lewd photographs. He specifically targeted girls who were orphaned or had run away from home and had nowhere else to turn. Krotov's crimes were particularly shocking because they occurred in Nakhodka, a small port city in Russia's Far East, where violent crime was relatively rare. The discovery of the murders sent shockwaves through the community, and many were outraged that someone like Krotov could exist. Sergei Alexandrovich Maduev was a notorious criminal from the Soviet era who was also a serial criminal. He had various names, including Shervanese, but referred to himself as a thief outside the law. He began criminal activities in the 1970s, but his most notorious crimes occurred in the late 1980s. Maduev gained further infamy when he tried to escape from Kresty Prison in 1991 with the help of a female investigator he had seduced. In 1995, Maduev was sentenced to death by the St. Petersburg City Court for 2 of his murders and many of his other crimes. However, due to a death penalty moratorium, he was given life imprisonment. He was initially held in Kresty Prison, then Novocherkassk, before being transferred to the Black Dolphin Prison in November 2000. He passed away in December of that same year due to heart failure and complications from diabetes. Andrei Melyuk, also known as the Brick Maniac, was a Russian serial criminal who committed several murders in Chelyabinsk between 2000 and 2002. His victims were mostly older women who he followed home after they left a convenience store with their groceries. He would then break into their homes and attack them from behind with a brick, stealing their possessions. Melyuk took the lives of 10 people and injured 10 more during these robberies. While some of Melyuk's victims managed to survive, they could not remember what he looked like. Eventually, he was caught, tried, and sentenced to life imprisonment for his crimes. Vladimir Mukhankin. Vladimir Mukhankin is a Russian serial criminal who was convicted of taking the lives of 9 people in Rostov Oblast in 1995. His victims were mainly women and girls, whom he targeted in Shakhty. Mukhankin's crimes involved suffocating his victims and sometimes torturing them before mutilation. Although sexual assault was not typically part of his pattern, he did violate and take the life of a 13-year-old victim. It appears that Mukhankin harbored a deep-seated hatred of women, given that he primarily targeted females for his crimes. He was found guilty and initially sentenced to the death penalty. However, This sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment. Yevgeny Nagorny ran a fraudulent car repair service to lure and take vehicle owners' lives to sell their cars. Nagorny committed his first crime on January 2, 1998, when he and his accomplice Stavitsky took the life of the owner of a Lada Niva. They would post ads in the newspaper to schedule a meeting with potential victims to inspect their cars. Once at the service station, they would take the car into the hangar to inspect it further, then take the owner's life. Nagorny and Stavitsky later targeted owners of foreign cars as they were worth more. Nagorny and Stavitsky went on to commit 9 more murders, targeting company executives, car drivers, and even other criminals, such as 2 members of the Solntsevskaya Bratva in their hangar in March 1998. The two made a considerable profit from the murders, stealing luxury cars. Nagorny sold the cars at a low price, making a maximum of $8,000. Carola Neher. Carola Neher was a German stage and screen actress and singer. In 1932, she left Germany after Adolf Hitler's ascension to power. She first emigrated to Prague, where she worked at the New German Theater, but went on to the Soviet Union in 1934, where she met Gustav von Wangenheim and worked with him at his cabaret Colonna Lynx. In 1936, during the Great Purge, she denounced herself as a Trotsky supporter and was arrested on the 25th of July, 1936. She was sentenced to 10 years and sent to Black Dolphin Prison, where she passed from typhus in 1942. Vladimir Nikolaev is a Russian criminal known for cannibalizing his victims and selling their flesh disguised as exotic animal meat. He had a criminal history before his murder convictions, and his first murder happened accidentally during a fistfight with a drinking companion. Nikolaev distributed and even sold his victims' meat to acquaintances at an open market, posing it as kangaroo meat. He used the money to buy alcohol. The ruse was discovered when some people became suspicious of the taste and submitted it to a doctor, where the doctor found it to contain human blood. Vladimir was arrested, and investigators found human remains and a heavily blood-stained bathtub in his apartment. Alexei Ivanovich. Pichugin is a former Russian intelligence officer convicted of multiple crimes, including murder, attempted murder, and extortion. Born in 1962, Pichugin started his career as an officer in the Federal Security Service and later worked for the oil company Yukos, where he was the head of security. In 2003, Pichugin was arrested and accused of being involved in several murders of individuals who had conflicts with Yukos. Pichugin denied all charges and claimed the government fabricated the evidence against him. Pichugin remains in prison and has maintained his innocence throughout his imprisonment. Many see his case as an example of the politicization of the Russian justice system and the persecution of those who challenge the government's authority. Alexander Pirovsky. Alexander Pirovsky is a Russian criminal who gained notoriety as a serial criminal and fraudster after taking the lives of 5 people in his hometown of Chelyabinsk between 1997 and 1999. Pirovsky would befriend wealthy individuals and gain their trust before defrauding them of large sums of money. He then took the lives of his victims to cover up his crimes. Pirovsky was finally arrested in 2000 and was found guilty of the murders and fraud charges. He was sentenced to life in prison. Mikhail Popkov. Mikhail Popkov is a former Russian police officer who became a notorious serial criminal, predator, and necrophile. Between 1992 and 2010, Popkov brutally assaulted, murdered, and sexually violated at least 78 women and girls in Angarsk, Irkutsk, and Vladivostok. He has admitted to and is suspected of at least 83 such crimes. Due to the brutal nature of his crimes, he was known as the Werewolf and the Angarsk Maniac. He would mutilate the bodies of his victims and perform sexual acts on them. Popkov was convicted of 22 murders in 2015 and given a life sentence. However, he confessed to an additional 59 murders 3 years later. In December 2018, he was convicted of 56 additional crimes and given a second life sentence. The court could not prove 3 of the crimes due to a lack of evidence. While there were calls for Popkov to be executed, Russia has a moratorium on capital punishment. Oleg Rilkov Viktorovich. Rilkov, also known as the Tolyatti Ripper, was a Russian individual who committed numerous crimes between 1992 and 1997. During this time, he sexually assaulted many underage girls and reportedly took the lives of several individuals in Tolyatti, located in the Samara Oblast region of Russia. Between 1992 and 1995, Rilkov committed a series of crimes against girls aged between 6 and 13. Rilkov would gain entry to the victims' homes by pretending to need assistance or water before committing these heinous acts and stealing from the residences. Sergei Shipilov, also known as the Velsk Chikatilo, is a Russian man convicted and sentenced to life in prison for 14 murders and 9 sexual crimes. Most of his crimes occurred in the town of Velsk, with most of his victims being women. Shipilov's first known crime occurred in 1995, and he didn't confess to it until 2016. In 1996, he took the lives of 3 more women and committed 8 sexual crimes, ultimately being arrested and sentenced to life in prison. However, he was not even suspected of the 3 murders then. While serving his life sentence, Shipilov denied assaulting one of his victims, claiming their sexual interaction was consensual and that she reported it to make money. Valery Skoptsov, also known as the villain of all trades, was a Russian criminal and serial killer who committed various crimes, from thefts to murders, across the USSR and Russia. Skoptsov confessed to investigators and provided detailed testimony, including admitting 9 murders. In 1998, he was sentenced to death, but the court later changed the sentence to life imprisonment. While serving his sentence at Black Dolphin Prison, Skoptsov wrote poetry and did not show remorse for his actions, stating that it was necessary to clean up after his brother and accomplice. He passed away from acute heart failure at 52 and was buried in the prison cemetery. Jamsrangian Sevin. Jamsrangian Sevin was a Buryat scholar who played a prominent role in Mongolian politics and academia during the 1920s. However, in 1932, he was dismissed and exiled to Leningrad, where he worked at the Institute of Oriental Studies. He was later arrested in 1937, convicted to 5 years imprisonment in 1940, and died on May 14, 1942, in Sol-Iletsk prison, which is now known as the Black Dolphin Prison. The Russian government only released the details of his death in 1993. Yuri Leonidovich Tsyuman, also known as the Black Tights Killer or the Night Guest, is a Soviet serial criminal who targeted young girls who wore black stockings. He committed his first crime in 1986, and between 1990 and 1991, he sexually assaulted and took the lives of at least 4 girls. He was eventually caught in 1992 by 2 strangers and was sentenced to capital punishment, which the court later replaced with life imprisonment. He is serving his sentence in the Black Eagle prison and has expressed an interest in poetry and a desire to visit his mother. He tried challenging his sentence in the Supreme Court of Russia in 2011 but was unsuccessful. As we come to the end of this video, it's clear that this place is not for the faint-hearted. The harsh conditions and strict regime are a testament to the severity of the crimes committed by its inmates and why this is a place where no one has yet to come out alive. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.